around the stretch, run for all the marbles. The Sooners seem to have plenty weapons in the arsenal. And Pete Carroll's men of Troy seem Sugar Bowl bound, but plenty teams are set to leapfrog them if they let down. Coming off the biggest win in school history, Virginia Tech visits Pitt, and think how huge a win would be for Coach Harris' program and for Larry's Heisman chances. Several questions remain. This week we'll provide some answers, like in the Canes rebound from Mr. Baco here. There's no time to pout about it, cause here come the volunteers and smoke a Spartans. Head down to Buckeye Land, I live and die for game day. I'm sorry, that's just what I am.
And race to New Orleans.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
Of course, Oklahoma in that pole position, the only team that controls its own destiny 100%. Unanimous #1 in all the computers on both polls. Everyone else has crashed once, but they're back in the race after Miami's loss.
Chris, of all the one-loss teams, USC is in pole position. You look at their offensive explosive ability. With a schedule at Arizona, UCLA, and Oregon State still to go, the Trojans have the easiest path to New Orleans in the Sugar Bowl for Pete Carroll.
Look what followed us from Norman. It's the ADT National Championship Trophy. Of course, the Sooner faithful very confident the crystal ball is headed right back to Norman January 5th.
Touchdowns. It's a touchdown, Oklahoma.
And now for the third time in 4 seasons, Oklahoma ranked #1 going into the A&M game. They remember the Aggie ambush last year, I promise you. Good chance for OU to hang on somebody for the 6th time in 10 games. That'd be a school record. The A&M defense is just getting shredded. The wrecking crew has become the Dreck crew. They can't stop the run. Only SMU has given up more touchdown passes this season. They've been especially bad on the road, averaging about 47 points a game, giving up the last 3. So Jason White, who didn't play his sharpest game against Oklahoma State last week, he's going to have a big day. He may not strike the pose, because that's not his style, but today will not exactly hurt his cause. Oklahoma, we saw them, and you couldn't help but be impressed. I think that they're doing what you always preach. They're not just playing against the opponent. They're playing against potential and perfection.
Perfection. They're the best football team in the nation by far because they have no apparent weakness in any area. Let's start with their offense. Jason White, the quarterback, as Chris said, did not have a great game last week, but he stayed in the pocket here, and he hits Brandon Jones for a long touchdown, a great play. But this is my favorite defensive series of the year. Remember, Oklahoma State has 3 shots at the Oklahoma 1, and they don't make it. The game is over already, and the pride of that football team, I will never forget. Boom, boom, boom. What a great football team Oklahoma is. Payback is tough. They're going to clobber Texas.
You know what the thing to remember, there's the time of the game. Game was over, but the pride of the defense, they've put out the effort to stop Oklahoma State. They wanted to shut out as far as their defense is concerned. You know, Coach Fran didn't have anything to do with A&M's upset last year over Oklahoma at College Station. But I'm afraid he's going to have to deal with the consequences, because when Oklahoma finds a reason to make it personal, you're in big trouble. And because Oklahoma lost to A&M last year, they've been able to look at this Texas A&M team as a team that's been marked from the beginning of the season. So forget about a letdown after the Oklahoma State game. A&M is in trouble because the Oklahoma defense, not only the pride, but the motivation of making Texas A&M personal. Reggie McNeil had a big game last year. You know how Mike Stoops is. You got to believe they're going to put a lot of pressure on number 16 for A&M. OU big.
The Dan and Dusty team, Dan Coney, Dusty Dvorak, they got 15 sacks between them. That's more than a lot of teams. It's more than either of these teams.
Mike says it's the best defense he's had since he's been at Norman. It's because it's the best defensive line by far that they've had. They don't have to blitz all the time now to get pressure. They can blitz with 4.
Great pride.
It'll be hard to make Baylor personal next week, but it won't matter. Trying to bounce back from Bedlam is Oklahoma State today. They host Tate.
troops simply refuse to go away. But before we send them roses, let's hear what them smokers say. And let's not dismiss the Canes, at least until they play the balls. And if the Hokies stop Fitzgerald, they may well just take it all.
A huge favorite at home against the Aggies.
I've got Oklahoma payback and sweet. They win big.
Well, we saw Chapter 1 last week of revenge, and I think you're going to see Chapter 2 this week. A&M beat Oklahoma, and you'll find that Oklahoma defense ready to go.
On Saturday, talk went from is Oklahoma the best team in the nation to is Oklahoma the best team ever. They did beat Texas A&M 77-0.
Yeah, if you can remember the last team to win a big game like that this late in the season, did you know the largest margin of victory in a single game by a team that went on to win at least a share of the national championship, 72 by the Bruins in 50.
Game day final. Alongside my partners, Trev Alberts and Mark May, I'm Reese Davis. Second Saturday in November, I've got the entire season figured out, guys.
You do? What is it?
If you don't live in Norman, Oklahoma, and play for that team, you're not safe. Don't care who you are. You can be ranked. You can be unranked. You are in dire jeopardy. Bobby Bowden, 70. Last year, Texas A&M beat Oklahoma. Reggie McNeil with a fabulous performance. But the Aggies going into Norman, where the Sooners said they weren't totally bent on revenge. And it turns out that the A and the M in Texas A&M stands for annihilated and manhandled. Because that's exactly what happened to them. I'm going to run through some stats for you. Jason White, he only threw 2 incomplete passes all day. 5 touchdown passes, 2 incomplete passes. Here's one to Mark Clayton. I mean, the Sooners put up such a big number on the scoreboard. If they put it on their speedometer, they get a $200 speeding ticket. 77 points they put up. Clayton has now a touchdown catch in 6 straight games. I mean, it was embarrassing. A&M didn't even show up.
Guys, we've talked about being technically sound.
Yeah.
Some football players not technically sound. Let me show you Melvin Bullitt, a freshman here. It's 3rd and goal. There's Melvin over there. He's a freshman defensive back. Comes in, makes a nice play. Melvin. Yo. Melvin. It's 77-0, man. What are you doing, son?
Well, Franchione probably wishing you were back at Alabama or TCU or Pittsburgh State or anywhere but Norman on this day. It was an abysmal effort by Texas A&M. And Oklahoma, though, Derek Strait scored the last touchdown on a pick 6. Do you have bad feelings about the starters being in there when it's 70-0?
Well, not a bad feeling. It's a pad your stat type of game anyway. And I'd rather see those guys on the sidelines. The reason being those guys could get injured, those players that are starters that are out there late in the game where the game is meaningless at that point because there's no way that Oklahoma's going to lose that game. But if you look at Oklahoma and break this team down, this is a team when they make mistakes, they correct mistakes on the field. They had 4 touchdowns called back. They did score after that, but still, Bob Stoops was upset at the mistakes they made in that football game, but they corrected those mistakes and scored. The way that they're hitting on all cylinders right now, I think Oklahoma might be able to be defeated by maybe 4 teams. The Carolina Panthers, New England Patriots, Kansas City Chiefs, and maybe the Indianapolis Colts. That's about it. They're that good.
You know, Mark and Reese, I think we can argue all day about whether the starters should have been in there or not in the 3rd and 4th quarter. But I think the point is when you look at this team, they played the same way those starters did from the first play in the 1st quarter and when it was 77-0 in the 3rd quarter. That's why they're ranked #1. It's Bob Stoops having his team ready to play. We talk about Oklahoma, and so many times we say, well, they just have better athletes. Yes, Oklahoma has better athletes, but you know what, gentlemen? They also win for a reason. J.D. Runnels running across here right there in the formation. Jason White's going to play fake it to Kewan Jones. Gets a favorable matchup with a linebacker. 9-yard gain. Technically sound. Now Texas A&M, they're going to show 7 guys up front. They're going to bring a blitz on Jason White. Is the offensive line going to break down Mark May? No way. They pick it up, and what do? Give him a great lane to throw the football. And Mark Clayton's over here. He holds the safety. Beautiful pass, easy catch. You always say, well, is Jason White really good? Of course he is. Look at that. Now look here. Wes Sims is your left tackle. He's going to block, and he's going to say, oh, I got a corner blitz. I'm smart enough to slide out, pick up the blitz. Jason White then, what does he do? Finds Jawan Rankins, easy catch, easy throw. Jawan Rankins, does he just run around? No, he waits till he turns the DB around. Great route, catches the ball. You know, guys, we talk about Oklahoma, we talk about their ability. Yes, they have great players, they're all Americans, but the bottom line is this. They have great technique, they win for a reason. They're technically sound, and they're great athletes.
There's no question about that, and they do play for championships there. They put 77 on A&M. A&M put 73 on Baylor. Oklahoma's got Baylor next. 147-0. No, not quite that bad. You know, some one-sided series in college
Reese,
football.
Your math is...
77 is 150.
Okay.
Well, let's not do the math. We can do the math, and we talk about Nebraska and Kansas 35 straight times. The Huskers, and you're good.